if you want to look and sort of try to think what is the real model for rich countries going forward, well, it's not Europe, it's not Japan, but it's also not clearly the United States either. I mean, we've now had 11 years in which we've had a recession, we had a really slow recovery, and now we follow that with a terrible recession. Median income is still not back as high as it was in the late 90s. The various policies of the last decade haven't delivered what they were promising, whether it was the Bush tax cuts or whether it was the stimulus. All have essentially underdelivered. What is the economic model going forward, given just how broad and diverse the struggles of rich countries in the last decade have been?
Well, let me speak about the United States. I know what's happening here. I'm less clear on what's happening in many of the other major countries of the world which are suffering the same disease. If you take a look at the United States, we are really two distinct economies. We have probably 92% of the GDP functioning rather well. Not great, but it would be the equivalent, if you could name it, at a 5% unemployment rate. The remaining 8% or 9% is those types of parts of the gross domestic product which are structures and usually, and more generally, assets with a life expectancy of greater than 30 years. And they have been cut in half. And if you go from 8% of the GDP to 4%, that 4 percentage points converted into the unemployment rate is what has moved the unemployment rate.
And that's utilization, that's purchasing, or both, all of it?
Well, it's basically the fact that it's often when you see an economy at the levels we are now, it's generally across the board. That's not the case. Even in investment, capital investment, short-term capital investment's not doing all that badly. I mean, equipment and software, not great, but okay. Structures are dead in the water. They're moving up slightly now, but it's very small, closing the gap. And then residential structures are basically the same thing, because non-financial